Unique New York. New York's unique. You know, you need unique New York. Got any?
That was good.
That was
I
good. I
you
think.
inflected well, and
Ah,
yeah,
thank you. My the what was the big black bug bled blue blood. That's a good one.
that's another good one.
Little more challenging than the Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
There was
That was pretty.
that one when we were kids. Ricky Tiki Timbo,
Oh,
Ricky Tiki Timbo, Meister Rimbo, Cherry Berry Rucci, Perry Pimbo.
you know, gotta loosen up
Yeah, loosen up.
the enunciation muscles. Trying to think another one. Did you do acting at all, like
I did
theater?
not. I did not.
Okay.
But I can act. But
You
I would say
can.
not professionally.
And who has affirmed the acting abilities to say that you can? Like, how do you know that?
Mostly myself. My mom said I was really good in third grade. She thought I did great. Um,
We're
I
gonna
played I
we're
played
gonna
it.
have
I
to
always played Jabez in the Prayer of Jabez.
like
That was my big like headliner.
I see a new gif coming of Andrew saying, "My mom said I was really good in the third
Yeah,
grade."
no, she thought it was
Yeah.
great. She thought it was
Okay.
great.
Ooh, the arsonist has oddly shaped feet. Sure does. 10th Avenue or 10th Presbyterian Church, Philadelphia. Not quite the, oh, people are introducing themselves. Never mind. Welcome, everybody. I know we pulled a quick one on you. I've been studying as Haley's understudy. She is here in the room, but will not be speaking today. In case you haven't met me, my name's Matt, and I'm the comedic relief, as you can tell.
If you haven't met Matt, you should because he is fantastic, and I'm really excited. I'm sorry that Haley's a bit under the weather and wasn't able to join today, although she, like Matt said, she is on the call. But I'm pumped because now y'all get to meet Matt, and he's fantastic. So we're already sort of doing it. So let's do introductions, Matt. I'm Andrew Triplett. I help lead the consulting team here at TouchPoint Software. And with me is Matt. Go ahead and introduce yourself
uh,
to folks.
Marketing coordinator slash software evangelist, help out with the marketing team, assist with sales, things like that. So creating some content, good fun stuff, and looking forward to our discussion today.
And Matt, how long, I'm gonna put you on the spot. How long have you
Ooh.
been with TouchPoint?
Oh, just shy of 2 years. I
Fantastic. And
I think August will be 2 years. Yeah.
you've been in church world for
Since I was, well, not quite since I was born. I was sprinkled a little bit as a baby, and then a couple of years later, my parents started going to church regularly. I worked at a church for 3.5 years as a small group director, database administrator, and production coordinator, but still actively involved in my home church. Love small groups, discipleship, and yeah, I think that's it.
fantastic. Awesome.
We haven't ever done one of these on mission trips. So if and
Yes,
when we ever do
but
that,
it's coming.
mission trips. Yes,
It's coming.
I'm
Yeah.
pro mission trip.
That's right. All right. So glad that you all are with us today. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to be, like I said, we're going to be discussing ticketing today. And as we jump in with most things that we do, we like to kick things off with a little bit of scripture. Scripture today is Hebrews 10:24 through 25. And let us consider how we may spur each other on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching. And that verse felt fitting for the topic today, simply because a lot of what we do at Touchpoint does entail meeting together, finding ways to bring people together, to worship together, and for us to sharpen one another. And we felt like that this verse reflected that well. So, the agenda for today, what we're going to be doing is starting with the why ticketing. Um, there's a lot of ways to put on an event. Why would ticketing be the right approach for your church? Then we'll get into a ticketing overview, kind of the nuts and bolts of the feature itself. We'll talk about types of ticketing because there's not just one that might be in your head. There's all kinds of useful solutions for ticketing. And then talk about the purchasing experience, kind of that end user experience, what they are going to do to reserve their tickets. And then, of course, wrap things up with Q&A and some announcements. As you have questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat there so that we can be, or not the
Pop them
chat,
into the Q&A.
the
Yeah,
Q&A.
there's a
I'm
nice little
sorry.
button right towards the middle with the Q ampersand A.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not the chat. We might miss those if they're in the chat. So go ahead and get those into the Q&A, and Matt and I will do the best that we can to address those at the end. All right.
Yeah. So shout out to Stephanie for the why, right? You got the why right there. Why? I don't know. He's on third and I don't wait. Different presentation. The why of ticketing, as you're preparing for maybe some large events, some really intentional events, it's important for us to look at why ticketing as opposed to maybe a general registration, which Andrew will kind of get into the differences between the two of them. But let me highlight just a couple of things on the why. So first off, Andrew, if you flip that one over, true reserved seating experience, right? There's an actual ticket, a section, a row, a seat. So it's a true reserved seating experience. There's also an advanced internal sales method where you're able to sell tickets in person or add or give reduced pricing or comp tickets. So for your less technologically inclined, you can do both online ticketing as well as in person. Again, the physical ticket delivery, people can print their tickets. If you're anything like me and still print a boarding pass every time you get to an airport, maybe you like that. There's also a streamline purchasing processor. So it's just more pared down than your typical registration. We're just asking for three things, bare minimum: first name, last name, and email address, right? That's it. And so when it comes to reducing friction in using ticketing, that's definitely a huge benefit. And then capacity control and preventing double booking. So going back to airlines, we don't like to double book our very large events that people are paying for. And so there's extra measures in place to make sure in real time that you don't overbook. So that's kind of the why behind it. Andrew, would you want to lead us into a couple more overviews with ticketing?
Yeah. So getting into what the feature actually is, everything that ticketing entails. What we're trying to do is provide connecting opportunities. These are events that are happening at your church, and get that into the database so that you can follow up and invite people back to church. Because a lot of the times when you're utilizing ticketing for one of your events, it's an event that's open more to the community. It's like your big Christmas presentation at the end of the year. And so there are tools out there that do that. There's the Eventbrites of the world and that kind of thing. That do that, but those aren't connected to the database, of course. And so having this information integrated into the database, some of the people who will be reserving seats are people that we already know, they're already in our database, but some of them won't be. These will be brand new people coming into the database. And so you might be thinking to yourself, like, oh, okay, well, that's what registrations are. Registrations do the same thing. So let's talk about this and kind of sit down and compare these side by side. What are some of the differences? As my friend Matt says, what are the pros of registrations versus ticketing? And by the way, we will have this slide deck available, and this is a really useful slide, especially for those of you that might already be using ticketing and thinking to yourself, when would I use one versus the other? So we will make this available to you. So on the registration side, we're registering each individual for the event. So you think of summer camp, which many of you are already maybe doing right now, or you've already completed it for the summer. But in that circumstance, you needed each individual's information that will be attending. You need their information, you need their allergies, the t-shirt size, rooming preferences, so on and so forth. And registrations are ideal for that. On the ticketing side, we're just registering the one individual. So, think about the last concert or sporting event that you went to. you purchased the tickets, you grabbed 4 tickets for you and your family and your friends, and then you handed those out. And so in that case, we're really just getting that the information for that one person. But even still, that might not be a person that was in your database before now. On the registration side, there's no physical ticket. On the ticketing side, there is a physical ticket that you could require that they present to gain entry into the event. On the registration side, there's no reserved seating. Every registration is, in essence, kind of its own general admission event. We'll come back to that in just one moment, sort of define what that means. But registrations are their own general admission events. And then on the ticketing side, we have the ability to do reserved seating. So grabbing that specific seat that the individual will actually sit in for the event. Row 1, seat A, section B, whatever it is. We're actually giving them that specific seat. On the registration side, discount codes and that are one-time and multi-use. On the ticketing side, we also have discount codes available, but those are on a per ticket basis. So you could say comp 3 tickets to an individual. You could reduce the price of the first 4 tickets they purchase, something like that. On the registration side, we have registrations are built into TouchPoint. So everyone that's on this call right now, I think, is familiar with registrations already being part of TouchPoint. But if you haven't used ticketing yet, ticketing is actually an add-on to the system. It's one of the very, very, very few features in the system that does cost a little bit extra. We'll get into the cost at the end of our presentation. It's a really simple pricing, so we'll talk through that. On the registration side, and this one is the same for both registration and ticketing, there are confirmation emails once someone makes their selections and makes their purchase. On the registration side, you can charge for the registration, or it can be a free registration. That is true on the ticketing side as well. Tickets can be free, or you can have an event where seating is free, and you just need to kind of know how many people are coming and where they'll be sitting in the venue. On the registration side and ticketing side, this one again is the same. The ability to customize, brand the shell of the registration experience. And then one other key difference, the last one listed there, on the registration side, they're all online sales, typically. I mean, you of course can, someone can bring you a check and you can kind of enter them in, but there's really no UI built into the system that is specifically for offline sales. That is not true for ticketing. On the ticketing side, there is a very specific page that we'll get into in a few moments that is for in-person sales, or someone that might want to call on the phone. They're just not comfortable with purchasing their tickets online, so they can do that on the phone. All right, so those are some of the key differences. And now let's talk about the types of ticketing. Matt.
Yeah, so there's different types of tickets, different types of ticketing. Not all events are created the same, and so we have a lot of flexibility within ticketing for that. So looking at just general admission, right? You get an event graphic, how many seats they want, and so one price, because there's only one type of seat. That ticket gets you into the building. General admission, first come, first serve. I think everyone's pretty familiar with that. So that's probably the simplest version. Let's kind of up that just a little bit to general admission by section, right? So again, you can have a first come, first serve, but for a particular section. You can implement as many prices as you want for as many sections as you want. Something really cool is you can also put pictures of viewpoint by section. We'll actually see that on the next one. That being said, as you could see, Bellevue singing Christmas tree down there, people can see roughly what their viewpoint would be if they sat in that section. Probably not going to take a picture from every single seat, but give people a general idea. But this is reserved seating, right? So this is picking their individual seats by section, by row, by seat number. Prices can vary depending on seat or section. They still get to see a viewpoint, and then you provide a physical or digital ticket with ticketing. So then kind of if you want to go complex, we have special events, right? Where maybe it's table and chairs for reserved seatings, tables in multiple rooms, a weekend retreat. So Andrew, you could flip to that next one. That's totally fine. So like you can see, tables and chairs. Either you can have it set up that people select their individual chair, or somebody can kind of ticket select a whole table if you're maybe doing a fundraising event or something like that. Another really cool application was this multiple rooms in different setups, that if you need to go ahead and kind of fill different rooms for different things, or overflow, or however you want to split it up. Okay, here you got the guys here, you got women here, you got young adults here. You can kind of dictate that as well.
Yeah.
This next one I actually was really interesting when I saw it. If you want to flip to the next picture, Andrew will kind of talk a little bit about this, but I don't know anybody's sanctuary whose seating is set up like this. So I'm a little intrigued on how this worked out.
Yeah, it's a very unique layout of this church. Now, so this was kind of a special scenario for a church that they do a Christmas tree event where people can come, and in the real world they can come up to a tree and there's ornaments hanging on the tree. They grab one, and then that ornament listed a gift that they were going to then donate for this special event. And they came and asked, hey, is this something that could be done electronically, digitally? And so we were able to use ticketing to do this. And I will tell you, this was a labor of love. This was something that did take some man hours to do, because as you can see on the screen there, every single one of those dots is a seat in ticketing, a quote unquote seat. And we were able to hide the word seat, of course, and kind of make all the terminology fit well. And then each of those seats corresponds to a gift that someone might be agreeing to give. So if I were to select one of the little green dots on the screen there, or a red ornament, or what have you, it might say girl toy, dolls with socks. And then I'm going to go and pick out a toy and some socks and donate that. And so as people were making those selections, you could actually see what was getting scooped up, and what was already done, and what was still out there, and for people to go get. And so a really, really neat application of that tool. And I like seeing creative uses of the system like that. I want to go back just real quick because Matt touched on a really good point. You can see on these two layouts that we have here, they're both tables. They both kind of have that table layout, but on this one, the individual gets to select which seat they're actually sitting at the table, as opposed to this next one where they're selecting the actual table itself. So they're selecting the entire table. So the system does have the flexibility to go to do both of those. What I really like about this particular venue is it's very clear where the stage is, and I think that's what's really key when creating your venues, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you all have the ability to create your own venues, and just indicating where that stage is so people understand, how good is my seat going to be is really what they're asking. How good is that seat? And so seeing where their seat is in relationship to the stage is key.
There's probably a reason why people don't use ticketing for weddings, right?
That's right.
Because you don't want to exactly tell them exactly where that sweetheart's table is.
Yep.
So last special event that we have here, this is another real life use case from Grace Community. We actually just posted a case study about their use of ticketing, and they used it for their women's retreat and for bed selection. So ladies could go ahead and go on to ticketing and select, which lodge they were in, which bunk they were in, top or bottom. And in real time, those beds were being taken and filled and things like that. And it cut a lot of time and effort just for them to not have to do Excel sheets or move people rooms or things like that. So it just really streamlined their experience. So speaking of experience, Andrew, what's the lowdown on what's the experience like on the guest
Yes.
side?
So, so for the end user, like Matt said at the top, we really want this to be a very seamless, streamlined experience for the ticket purchaser. If you think back to the last time that you purchased tickets, so I'm here in Memphis, and we have the Grizzlies in town. And every time I go to purchase tickets for the Grizzlies, I feel like it takes forever. It's just it's kind of a clunky experience and kind of hard to do. So we want that to be faster for the end user. But what all the different ticketing tools have in common is that they get people into the purchase process as quickly as possible. So that first screen that you're seeing is actually where you're selecting your seat. So the first thing that you do is select the seat, and then you go into kind of the details of first and last name and so on. So we land on the page and we make our selections. Now, what we're showing these screenshots on the slide here is in that top screenshot, I've selected 4 seats, and we're circling that or putting a ring around that in blue. Meanwhile, on someone else's screen, that lower screenshot is showing what someone else would be saying. Like if Matt was on this screen, if he's purchasing tickets at the exact same time as me, in real time, he is seeing those seats that he was so desperate to get
Come
go
on,
away
Andrew.
because I'm just a little bit faster than he was getting there. But everyone can kind of see that, and since this is very much real time, there's really very low likelihood. And when I say low, I mean extremely low to the point of non-existent, that someone would have 2 seats at the same time. That just can't happen. So you're seeing this all in real time. It's a real nice experience. So if you have an event, especially for some of you that have events, I've worked with a lot of churches that they have people just knocking down the doors. This event's going to go live at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, and they have people sitting there on the website refreshing the screen at 7:59, waiting for that to show up. And so if that's you, then ticketing is a great option for you because of those real-time checks there. So once they've made their selections, they of course proceed to the next page. On the next page, we said at the top, the default and sort of the bare minimum is first and last name and email address. First, last name, email address, just to get people in on their way to the payment process. Now, you do have the ability to ask additional questions if you want to. So, if you are doing, say, a dinner theater type event, where people not only are selecting which table they'd like to sit at, but they might be also, they need to indicate some dietary restrictions, some allergies for them and others in their party, then you can add additional questions to that process, just to get all the information that you might need. So next screen here. Yeah, so that's where we come to assisted booking. So on the assisted booking side, this is that part of the process where the sales are sort of offline, if you will. You're still online, you're still using the internet to make the sale, but it's offline in the sense that the end user, the purchaser, is not the one going and doing this. They're coming to a designated place at the church, or they're calling on the phone, and then a member of your staff or a volunteer that you have empowered can utilize the assisted booking page. The assisted booking page is really cool because it's fully integrated in the database. So if Matt calls to purchase some tickets, I go into my database, I type in Matt Brown, there he is, I found his record, and off I go. So I am tying this purchase to his record right then and there. If he's not in the database just yet, I can go ahead and add him to the database right from the assisted booking screen. Once he's in the database, once we have all that squared away, we go through the payment process, the booking process, just like normal, just like you would externally. But the big difference on the assisted booking page is that you have the ability to, in real time, discount the individual's purchase, discount the how much. So if Matt, someone on staff let Matt know, hey, we're going to go ahead and rather than you pay $10 per ticket, we're going to let you buy these for $5. You can do that from the assisted booking screen without having to create discount codes for every single one of those instances, for every single one of those scenarios. You can just do it all from that assisted booking mode. You can even comp them down to 0, so that he doesn't have to pay anything.
I like the sound of that.
Once the purchase process is complete, that's where the purchaser does receive their ticket. The tickets look something like what you're seeing on the left-hand side of the screen. There where you see the QR code, that's kind of the default, is that there is a QR code, and then through the TouchPoint mobile app, you can scan those QR codes, and then that will tell you whether or not the person can gain entry into the event. I'll be perfectly honest, the majority of the churches that we have that are using ticketing are not scanning barcodes or QR codes. It's one of those things where it's like, well, if someone's going to lie to get into this event, they should probably be here anyway. So that's okay. Come on in. No worries. That's where that lower screenshot comes in, and you can see there instead of displaying a QR code, we're displaying maybe the church's logo, maybe a graphic that kind of ties back to the event itself. So that's what most of our churches are doing. If you then go to print those tickets, that's where that layout comes again back to the top left-hand corner where you're printing 4 tickets per page. So you can kind of print those 4 tickets per page, and then people can cut those out and distribute them to family and friends. Speaking of, for reserved seating events, you can also do that electronically. So if I were to purchase some tickets and I want to give those out to my friends, all I need is my friend's email address, and then there's actually a transfer tickets button from the My Tickets page. Okay, so I click on that, transfer that over to a friend, and now they can get in to the event. I don't have to wait out in the lobby for them to get there so we can meet and hand them their ticket and then go in.
What's reseller's fee on TouchPoint ticketing, when you're transferring tickets? Like StubHub style. Is that big fat zero?
It's a zero. It's
There we go. That's what I'm
$0
talking
transfer
about.
fee. Yeah,
Speaking my
$0
language.
transfer fee. We're not trying to make a new revenue stream for ourselves there with transferred tickets. So people can go ahead and do that. And actually, speaking of, they also have the ability, if you allow them, if you grant them the ability, they can also release their tickets as well. It's important to let them know that if you're going to let them release their tickets, that no money's changing hands there. They're not. Just because they release your tickets doesn't mean that we're refunding them then there. So you do want somewhere in the sales process to just indicate, hey, here's our refund policy. That policy might be no refunds, or it might be contact the church and let us know, and we can provide that refund.
Nice. So let's get awkward. I know I talked about all the freebies, but let's talk pricing, Andrew. I think it's time for us to go there. It's simple compared to other people. Let's just put it that way. It's $100 per event, just all the setup and everything else, and then $1 per ticket sold. So this is just a really simple graph I put together, doing some research that if you have a ticket, it's $50 a ticket. You're doing a conference or a concert or something like that, right? So at $50 a ticket, that orange line is where how much money Eventbrite would take as your tickets sell. That green line is Brushfire, and then that blue line is TouchPoint. So I would probably venture to guess if you're selling a $50 ticket to a concert, you're probably selling more than 200 tickets. So I just want you to know that this scales, right? The larger the event, the more cost effective it is to use TouchPoint ticketing. And you get the added bonus that all of that stays within TouchPoint. The people who came to that event stays within TouchPoint. So it's an incredible opportunity for you to reach out and to engage, maybe the new people that came to a ticketed event. We'll say, hey, we want to thank you for coming. We'd love to see you on a Sunday or at a worship service. So, Andrew, what do you do? Did I miss anything on that? Or do you want to tell them what you do? What do you
Yes.
do
So
here?
what does that additional cost, that $100 per event, what does that entail? That goes towards the onboarding. This is a feature, that some of you haven't used just yet. And there are a couple moving parts to it, because you do need to go ahead and create a venue. There's no limit on the number of venues that you create. And I should define that. A venue is the place where the event is taking place, right? So you'll have a venue for your sanctuary. You might create another venue for your fellowship hall, another for maybe some outdoor seating where you do some events, things of that nature. And there is absolutely no limit and no additional cost to adding as many venues as you would like to the system. So there is a little bit of training that goes into that. The venue creation tool is very, very good for additional consulting hours. If you'd like to purchase additional consulting hours, the consulting team will actually create your venue for you. And I'll be honest, we've been doing this for several years now. We've not had one single church ever take us up on that offer. The reason is they kind of get into that tool, that venue creation tool. They take a look around and they say, "Oh, I got this. It's easy." There's actually a tutorial in the venue creation tool itself that walks you through everything you need to know about setting that up. It's really, really very good. So you can set up those venues, but once you've done that, that's where our team does need to do some connecting and do a little bit of training on what you need to do to create that event. Specifically, hey, how are we going to price our tickets? How are we going to create the meetings, which will become the occurrences for the event? So things of that nature. And so that's where the consulting team comes in. And there we are in Lego form, which I'm just very excited about. So you'll get that kickoff call with a member of our team. The consulting team is Mike, Sarah, Becky, and myself. And then we'll give you not only the training on wiring up the event, but also on managing the event as well. There are some features that we didn't really even get into today in terms of what about holding some seats and then releasing them later and that kind of thing. So that is all part of this as well.
Just talking about the venue creation really quickly, I know probably should have touched on it when talking about Grace Community. They did kind of a tables and chairs situation for ticketing for a Seder dinner. And one of the things that they said, beyond just the time savings of not using Excel sheets and moving people around, is they could add tables. So as they started getting closer to 70, 80, 90% tickets sold, they could add more tables and chairs because they still had space in their sanctuary. So, they started with a limited amount of seating, but as they saw the popularity of that event, they were able to continue to expand that in the venue creation. So they didn't miss out on more people in the community just joining them for that event. So it's really flexible.
All right. So that's everything that we wanted to show you today. So let's take a look. I think we have had a couple of questions come in. All right. All right. So one question, when will ticketing, purchasing, and scanning be supported in the 3.0 app? So in terms of on the purchasing side, that's really available today. Just like any other event in TouchPoint, it does, of course, go through an involvement, as you have probably already guessed. And so those can be tied to the mobile app automatically. If you all are using the 3.0 app, then you're familiar with the concept of creating your involvement, going to the mobile tab within the registration, and just indicating, I think the button is show in mobile, I believe, or include in mobile, whatever that wording might be. But you would just use those same processes. In terms of the scanning, I'm very glad that this came up, glad that you asked. So currently scanning is in 2.0, the 2.0 app, and is being built for the 3.0 app. The intention is to have that available for the Christmas events that you all are putting on this winter. So we should be seeing that get into the app hopefully as soon as possible so that it can be tested and available, like I said, for you all for your Christmas events.
Cool. It's no longer Christmas in July, it's Christmas in June. All right, another question. If it's a general admission, just general admission format, is it still the $100 then $1 per ticket? And yes, that is correct. It's really just the creation of that event that triggers that $100 and then $1 per ticket. The system's really not looking at what type of
what type of event it is, whether it's reserved seating or general admission by section. So it would be included in those fees. There's another question about, let's see, I actually saw it in the chat. So there was a question, I believe, pertaining to, it was an event that was general admission seats, but didn't result in tickets. I would honestly just have to kind of take a look at that event and see the way it was configured. That's not new in the system. So if it did go through the ticketing, feature, then it would have resulted in tickets. So the purchaser, when they purchase those tickets, they receive the confirmation email with a link to the My Tickets page, and that link is what takes them in to the place where they can see all the tickets that they purchased and download those.
Cool. So I know you had mentioned about just releasing tickets. What about, donating tickets for events or sponsoring tickets? Maybe a kid's, sponsoring a kid or something like that. Is that something that should be done through ticketing or through like a registration?
They can absolutely be done through ticketing. Just like with normal registration, so the new registration feature, some of you may be aware there's actually a question type called donation, where you can ask people to not only register for the event, but also give an additional donation during the event. So like in a camp scenario, I might register the kiddos for camp and then give an extra $50 to help sponsor another child that wants to come to camp. And so ticketing can work the same way. You can ask people if they'd like to give in addition to the amount of tickets that they're already purchasing, and then that can be applied towards helping fund others. Let's see here. Okay, this is kind of an interesting question. So basically the question is, is seat selection optional, that reserves seating? And absolutely. And then the question goes on, we do ticketing for an event rather than specific seating to control number of guests spread out over several holiday services or special events. And so for me, that would kind of fall under the category of general admission is the way I would guide you on that. So if you had general admission type event, and then each of the quote unquote occurrences. So if it's like a 9 o'clock service and a 10:30 service and a noon service, each of those would be a meeting that someone would be selecting from, so they could choose which of those meetings they would like to attend. And so it sounds like we could replicate a lot of what you're trying to do there. I get a lot of questions from churches that kind of along those same lines. I get questions from churches who they don't have individual seats in their sanctuary. They have pews rather than seats. And in that circumstance, I do recommend either general admission or general admission by section. The benefit of general admission by section is that you can charge different prices for where someone is going to sit in the sanctuary, which pew they're going to sit in, but then you don't have to worry about them sitting in a specific spot of that pew, which obviously would be very difficult to control.
Andrew, I got kind of a side pricing question that I legitimately don't know the answer to, and you are the guy. So $100 per event. If the tickets are free, is it still $1 per ticket?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. It is still $1 fee per ticket, even if the ticket is being passed along to the purchaser for free. The reason for that is that we are connected in with a service that we pull into TouchPoint. So everything's done through TouchPoint. So I don't want you to hear me say you have to go buy another service or even create a new account with a different service. We take care of all that, but there is a service that's sort of the engine behind that venue portion of the system, and they charge TouchPoint for those tickets, and so we just have to pass that cost along.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I know it went by fast. We have just a couple of announcements. If you haven't already registered to meet me in person in September, you can still join us at Summit at Cross Church. It's going to be an incredible time. I've been talking to some new ministry partners, new sponsors that are going to be there. So we're excited to introduce you to some people that we've identified. But we're excited to continue to have these types of conversations with you, for you guys to sit at tables with one another and have conversations and learn from each other and encourage one another. And this will be my first summit in person, and I'm super excited to experience it for myself. But I really want you to experience it. Send one person to check it out, and to just continue to invest in, invest in the kingdom, invest in the tools that you guys are stewarding, resourcing, investing in the relationships. We'd love to have you. The only other announcement I have is webinar next month. Registrations July 31st, 2 p.m. Central, with Becky and someone yet to be determined. No, just kidding. I'll be there. I'll be the hype guy, so I'll have a nice little towel. Becky will be your resident expert for the day, and we'll see if we can't chat GBT her into maybe another Lego creation for your viewing pleasure. Andrew, do you have anything else? Do you want to close
That
us
is
out? Pray for our
that
churches.
that is all for me. Becky, I will say that webinar is going to be fantastic. Not only have you met Matt today, and he is awesome, but Becky, she is on the consulting team. Prior to joining the consulting team, she sat in the same seat as many, many of you on this call. And she, for her church, did all kinds of interesting registrations. So I know that that's going to be fantastic. I would encourage you to come listen in. So
Cool.
that is all from us today. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it very much.